Skeever Robbins here. Welcome to the Get It Done Guys, quick and dirty tips to work less and do more. Listener Caitlin has a problem. She writes in, I provide administrative support for 3 bosses. Prioritizing is hard. How do I schedule my time when they don't have neat equal workloads for me every week? Oh, Caitlin. They say that a man cannot serve 3 masters. Fortunately, a woman can, and you're either a woman or a man named Caitlin. When you serve only one master, prioritizing is easy. Your boss gives you 5,000 things to do, and you say, Boss, I can't do 5,000 things at once. Which one do I do first? All of them. You reply, Of course, I understand. And which one would that be? Eventually, your boss will have to answer. With 3 bosses, however, there's no one authority on how you should spend your time. Except you. Especially if your bosses aren't around all the time, it can be really tough to prioritize the tasks between the bosses. Let's say your bosses are evil geniuses who are scheming to take over the world. One is raising a zombie army, of course. Another is teaming up with space aliens to destroy Washington. And the third is plotting to destroy all human intelligence by forcing us all to watch the 9th installment of the Twilight series. The urgent important time management matrix that's popularized by Stephen Covey would have you do the important tasks first. But how do you know whether ordering brain pouch-equipped vests for the zombie army invasion next month is more or less important than preparing the vats of green slime for the alien ambassador reception in a week? The projects belong to different bosses, so you can't really compare them. The answer lies with a fascinating observation by time management expert Mark Forster. He says that if something isn't important, it shouldn't be on your task list at all, so importance is irrelevant when choosing which task to do first. Instead, everything on your task list should be important, and you should do them in the order of how urgent they are. But won't I spend my life in a frenzy of stress-filled last-minute catch-up trying to finish what's due in 10 minutes? You cry. And it is a reasonable concern. The zombies will be marching on Washington in 4 weeks, or 28 days. The alien ambassadors arrive in 7 days. Normally, we would say the green slime is more urgent, and we would start mixing that up first. According to Mark, we misunderstand urgency. We think that what's most urgent is what has to be done the soonest. No. What's most urgent is what has to be started the soonest. Zombie vests require custom brain pouches, so they have a lead time of 24 days, 21 days of pre-order plus 3 days of shipping. To meet the 28-day deadline, they must be ordered in 28 days minus 24 days, which is 4 days. Green slime is needed in 7 days, and it can be prepared just 2 days in advance, so the preparation has to start in 7 days minus 2 or 5 days. Now, normal urgency would have us start the green slime first, since it's needed first. But then we would be totally squeezed and panicked because we would be late on the zombie army vests. When we determine urgency by start date, however, we know that we need to order the vests first, and then we'll have plenty of time to get everything else done. We're prioritizing by urgency, but with no panicking involved. Some weeks, one of your bosses may use you less, giving you more time to devote to your other bosses. If so, do the extra work. But make sure the other bosses don't come to expect it. Say, Boss number 1, I have extra time this week because boss number 3 doesn't need much of my time. So, unless number 3 gives me more work, I can give you a full 50% of my time to work on zombie army logistics. Now that unless part is important. If boss number 3 comes to you on Wednesday and says that you need to get Robert Patterson on the line to review dialogue for Twilight 9, the new moon after the eclipse, you need to scale back on your zombie army efforts. Don't just go to boss number 1 and say, boss number 3 needs me, so you don't get as much of my time this week. That will remind boss number 1 that they don't have absolute control, and it will damage their fragile, world-dominating ego. Instead, rebalance your work by giving boss number 1 the illusion of control. You can scale back in 2 ways. 1, do less work. 2, do lower quality work. Tell your boss the implications of each choice and let your boss choose. Sorry, boss number 1, but boss number 3 needs me to work on the Twilight project. Do you want me to delay zombie army logistics until next week, or would you prefer that I research less thoroughly, risking the battlefield confusion when we deploy? Don't be afraid to call a boss meeting if needed. You may be the mastermind doing the work of world domination, but your bosses still think that you're just their pawn. If they won't respond to your prioritizing by boundary setting, pull out the big guns, the bosses themselves. Convene a meeting and say, I am your innocent pawn and gladly do your bidding, but we need to figure out how to deal when you all need me at once. Ask them to agree amongst themselves how to divide up your time when all three need you, and just follow their instructions. Serving three masters is tricky. Prioritize by urgency, the urgency of when things need to start, not finish. Set boundaries when you're given work, and if your workload changes, let the boss who's losing some of your time decide how you should scale back. If all else fails, let your bosses fight it out amongst themselves. The worst that can happen is that they destroy themselves in the process, leaving a power vacuum for you to fill. I wish you the best of luck, Caitlin. Your most awesome eminence. I want you to think well of me, just in case. This is Steve Robbins. Email questions to getitdone@quickanddirtytips.com. I coach high-potential leaders in strategic thinking, strong interpersonal skills, and world domination. If you want to know more, visit steverrobbins.com. That's SteverRobbins.com. Work less, do more, and have a great life.